Captain James Walker stood at the massive window of the Galactic Council's space station, watching the endless sea of stars. His weathered hands were clasped behind his back, and his blue uniform, bearing Earth's insignia, stood out among the elaborate robes of the alien representatives rushing past him. The emergency alarm had been blaring for the past hour. Another star system had gone dark, the fifth one this week. Walker knew what that meant. The Void Collective had struck again. Inside the Grand Council chamber, representatives from over 300 advanced civilizations gathered. Walker took his seat, noting how the usually proud alien species looked shaken. The Galactic Council had existed for over 10,000 years, and many of these races had mastered technologies that humans could only dream of. Yet today, fear filled the chamber. The council leader, a tall being made of crystalline structures, stepped forward. Its voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly by the neural implants every representative wore. The Proxima Centauri system has fallen. The Void Collective consumed it entirely, leaving nothing behind. Walker's heart sank. Proxima Centauri was just 4 light-years from Earth. Too close. Way too close. Holographic displays lit up the chamber's center, showing recordings of the attack. Walker leaned forward, studying the footage carefully. The Void Collective appeared as massive clouds of swirling dark energy, each one larger than a planet. They moved through space like living storms, consuming everything in their path. Planets, stars, even the fabric of space-time itself. "Our most advanced weapons have no effect," announced the military chief of the Zenith Empire, a civilization that had mastered antimatter technology centuries ago. "The energy beings simply absorb our attacks and grow stronger." Panic spread through the chamber. Walker watched as the greatest minds in the galaxy began to crack under pressure. The quantum masters of Rigel, known for their mastery over space and time, proposed abandoning this galaxy entirely. The bioengineers of Vega suggested trying to evolve into energy beings themselves. Each suggestion seemed more desperate than the last. "We must accept the inevitable." The council leader's voice cut through the chaos. "Our civilizations must retreat to our core worlds. We will gather our remaining resources and try to find a way to survive in isolation. The outer systems must be abandoned." Walker stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. All eyes turned to him. Some mechanical, some biological, some existing in spectrums humans couldn't even perceive. "Earth lies in the outer systems," he said, keeping his voice steady. "You're asking us to abandon our home." "Captain Walker." The council leader's tone was almost pitying. "Humanity is young. Your species has barely mastered interplanetary travel. Even your most advanced colonies haven't reached beyond your own solar system. The Void Collective will reach Earth soon. You must evacuate while you can." Walker looked around the chamber, at civilizations that had explored the stars when humans were still figuring out how to make fire. They had created wonders beyond imagination, reshaped entire galaxies, and mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. And now they were giving up. "No," Walker said firmly. "Earth will not retreat." Murmurs filled the chamber. The council leader's crystalline form flickered with confused patterns of light. "This is not a matter for debate, Captain. Your species cannot hope to stand against this threat. Even our combined might has failed." Walker straightened his uniform and squared his shoulders. "With all due respect, that's not your decision to make. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We've stared into the abyss more times than I can count. But we've never given up. We've never retreated. And we're not about to start now." As he walked out of the chamber, Walker could feel the stares of hundreds of advanced beings on his back. They thought humans were young, primitive, and foolish. Maybe they were right. But Walker knew something they didn't. Throughout human history, the most amazing breakthroughs had come when all hope seemed lost. He touched his communication device, connecting to Earth's Defense Command. "This is Captain Walker," he said grimly. "We're on our own. But we're not done fighting. Not by a long shot." Dr. Anna Mitchell hadn't slept in 3 days. The walls of her lab at the Mars Research Station were covered with holographic displays showing data from the Void Collective attacks. Empty coffee cups littered her desk, and her red hair was tied back in a messy ponytail. "You should get some rest," her AI assistant commented, projecting a concerned-looking emoji onto one of the screens. "Not now," Anna muttered, her eyes fixed on the latest sensor readings from Proxima Centauri. While everyone else saw destruction in the data, she saw something different, something strange. The lab door slid open, and Captain Walker stepped in. He looked tired too, having just returned from the Galactic Council meeting. "Tell me you have good news, Dr. Mitchell." Anna straightened up, pushing her glasses back up her nose. "Look at this," she said, pulling up a three-dimensional display of the Void Collective's energy signature. "Everyone's been so focused on what these beings destroy, they haven't paid attention to what they leave behind." Walker moved closer to the display. "What am I looking at?" "Quantum echoes," Anna explained, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. "Every time the Void Collective consumes a star system, they leave behind a specific pattern in the quantum field. It's like footprints in the snow." She pressed a button, and the display changed to show multiple attack sites. "See these patterns? They're identical. Not similar, identical. That shouldn't be possible in quantum mechanics. Everything at the quantum level should have some degree of randomness." Walker frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means they're not as chaotic as everyone thinks. The Void Collective isn't just destroying things randomly. They're following a precise pattern, like a computer program." Anna pulled up another display. "And if it's a program, it can be hacked," Walker finished, beginning to understand. Anna nodded eagerly, or at least disrupted. "The advanced races have been trying to fight these beings with pure force. But what if that's exactly the wrong approach? What if we need to think smaller, not bigger?" She brought up a simulation showing her theory. "If we could create a quantum resonance field that matches their pattern but runs in reverse, we might be able to disrupt their energy structure. We wouldn't have to overpower them. We could unravel them." Walker watched the simulation with growing hope. "Can we build something like this?" "Maybe." Anna ran her hands through her hair. "The quantum technology we'd need, it's not as advanced as what the Galactic Council has, but maybe that's good. We'd be approaching the problem from a completely different angle." Walker's communication device beeped. The message made his face grow dark. "The Council is demanding we evacuate Earth immediately. They're saying we're endangering the entire sector by refusing to retreat." Anna stood up straight, her tired face setting into determined lines. "Tell them no. I need 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks to prove this theory." Walker looked at the quantum patterns floating in the air, then at the scientist's determined face. He thought about Earth, about humanity's history of doing the impossible when backed into a corner. "I'll buy you as much time as I can, but the Void Collective is getting closer every day. Then we better work fast." Anna turned back to her displays. "Send me everything we have on their attack patterns, and get me in touch with Mark Stevens from the AI division. If these energy beings are running on some kind of program, we're going to need his help to crack it." Walker nodded and headed for the door. He paused at the threshold. "The Council thinks we're primitive and foolish for not retreating." Anna smiled without looking up from her work. Sometimes the best solutions come from primitive thinking. After all, when was the last time any of those advanced races had to solve a problem without relying on their superior technology? As Walker left, Anna pulled up another set of data. The fate of Earth might depend on humanity's greatest strength, the ability to find new ways to solve old problems. And right now, that was exactly what they needed. Deep within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Commander Thomas Reed stood in a hidden command center carved into the heart of a massive space rock. The base had been built in secret over the past week, away from the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council. "Status report," he called out to the busy room filled with both human and alien scientists. Mark Stevens, the AI specialist, looked up from his array of screens. His dark skin reflected the blue glow of holographic displays, showing complex code patterns. The quantum sensors are online. We're picking up the Void Collective's signature clearly now. Around the room, a handful of alien scientists worked alongside the human team. They were the rebels, the ones who hadn't given up hope. A tall, blue-skinned scientist named Blue. He had chosen the simple name himself, knowing humans struggled with his species' complex harmonics, approached with a tablet. Dr. Mitchell's theory is solid, Blue said, his translator converting his musical language into English. My people called such thinking primitive, but... He paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Sometimes the oldest ways are the best ways. Commander Reed nodded, studying the tactical display. The Void Collective had already consumed 3 more star systems since the council meeting. They were moving faster now, growing stronger with each system they destroyed. How's the quantum resonator coming along? Reed asked, turning to the engineering section. Dr. Mitchell emerged from behind a massive piece of machinery that looked like a cross between a satellite dish and a particle accelerator. Her face was smudged with grease, and she held a wrench in one hand. We're close. The power coupling is tricky. We need it to be strong enough to generate the reverse pattern, but subtle enough not to attract attention. Time estimate: 3 days, maybe 4. She wiped her forehead with her sleeve. The alien Tech Blue and the others brought helps, but we're basically inventing new physics here. Reed's communicator buzzed. Captain Walker's face appeared on the small screen. Commander, we have a problem. The Council's detected unusual energy readings from the asteroid belt. They're sending ships to investigate. How long do we have? 8 hours, maybe less. Reed looked around the room at his unlikely team. Humans working with alien rebels, all of them racing against time. We'll have to move the base. Mark, start downloading the core data. Dr. Mitchell, what do you need to transport the resonator? Moving it could damage the calibration, she said, biting her lip. We need at least 12 hours to reach a stable point in construction. Blue stepped forward. My ship has a cloaking device. Not the best, but it might confuse their sensors long enough to. Suddenly, all the screens in the command center flashed red. Mark's fingers flew over his keyboard. Multiple ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Council vessels, heavily armed. They're spreading out to surround the asteroid field. Reed straightened his uniform. Blue, get that cloak online. Mark, start the data transfer. Dr. Mitchell. He turned to the scientist. How close are you to something we can actually test? We have a prototype. Small scale, barely powerful enough to affect a single void being. But, get it ready, Reed ordered. If we have to run, we're taking something to show for all this work. He turned to the command center's main screen. All personnel, this is not a drill. Execute Protocol Shadow. We knew this might happen, and we planned for it. Humanity hasn't survived this long by giving up when things get tough. As the base erupted into organized chaos, Reed watched his team move with practiced efficiency. The Council might see humans as primitive, but right now, that primitive spirit of survival was exactly what they needed. Sir, Mark called out. Incoming transmission from the Lid Council ship. They're ordering us to power down and prepare for inspection. Reed smiled grimly. Send no response. Let them think this is just another empty rock. He turned to Blue. How good are you at flying through an asteroid field? The alien's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile. Better than they are. As the Council ships drew closer, the hidden base transformed into a hive of activity. They might have to run, but they wouldn't run empty-handed. And sometimes, Reed thought, watching Dr. Mitchell carefully pack up her prototype, retreating was just another word for finding a better place to make your stand. Pluto Research Station hung in the darkness at the edge of the solar system, a collection of silver domes and research towers gleaming under the distant sun. Inside the main control room, Dr. Anna Mitchell watched the final preparations for humanity's first test against the Void Collective. Quantum resonator at full power, Mark Stevens reported from his station. His screen showed complex energy patterns flowing through the prototype device they'd built. The test zone is ready. Commander Reed stood at the center of the control room, his face lit by the blue glow of holographic displays. Status of the target. One void entity detected. Blue answered, his alien fingers dancing over the controls. Small one, probably a scout. It's following the same pattern as the others, heading straight for our solar system. They had relocated their entire operation to Pluto after escaping the Council's search of the asteroid belt. The distant research station, usually used for deep space observations, now housed humanity's best hope for survival. Energy level stable, Dr. Mitchell reported, checking her readings for the 10th time. The reverse quantum pattern is holding. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Commander Reed nodded grimly. Begin the sequence. Let's show these energy beings that humanity isn't finished yet. The massive quantum resonator, built from a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology, hummed to life. Its dish-like structure pointed towards the approaching void entity, invisible to normal eyes, but clearly visible on their quantum sensors. Target locked, Mark called out. Initiating quantum pattern in 3, 2, 1. A beam of pure energy, twisted into an exact reverse pattern of the Void Collective's signature, shot out from the resonator. For a moment, everything seemed to work perfectly. The beam struck the void entity, and their sensors showed its energy pattern beginning to unravel. Then everything went wrong. Energy feedback, Dr. Mitchell shouted as her screens filled with warning signals. The entity is absorbing the beam and reflecting it back. Shields up, Commander Reed ordered, but it was too late. The reflected energy struck the station like a hammer, amplified 1,000 times by the void entity's power. Alarms blared throughout the facility as systems began to fail. We need to shut it down, Blue called out, his translator barely keeping up with his panicked harmonics. The quantum resonator is going critical. Dr. Mitchell's fingers flew over her controls, trying to contain the disaster. The pattern. It's not just reflecting our energy, it's twisting it somehow, converting it into something else. All personnel, evacuate immediately. Reed's voice boomed over the station speakers. This is not a drill. Get to the escape pods. The control room erupted into controlled chaos as the team rushed to save what data they could. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the void entity growing larger, feeding on the energy from their failed attempt to stop it. Download complete, Mark announced, yanking a data core from his station. We have all the readings from the test. Everyone out. Reed ordered as the station's structure groaned around them. Move. They ran through the corridors towards the escape pods, the station breaking apart behind them. Dr. Mitchell clutched her tablet containing the test data, her mind already racing through calculations, trying to understand what had gone wrong. As their escape pods launched into space, they watched Pluto research station tear itself apart, the void entity consuming the remains of their first attempt to fight back. In the cramped space of her escape pod, Dr. Mitchell reviewed the data with shaking hands. We were wrong, she whispered. We tried to fight them like the Council would, just with different technology. But that's not the answer. Then what is? Commander Reed asked from the pod's communication screen. She looked up, her eyes bright with sudden understanding. We need to stop thinking about fighting them at all. We need to think about changing them. The data from the failure, it's showing us something new, something no one else has seen. As the escape pod sped toward Earth, the void entity moved on, growing stronger from their failed attempt to stop it. But in that failure, Dr. Mitchell saw hope. Sometimes, she thought, you had to get everything wrong before you could figure out how to make it right. 3 days after the Pluto station disaster, Dr. Anna Mitchell stood in front of a wall of equations in her emergency lab beneath the Martian surface. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. "You're all going to think I'm crazy," she announced to the small group gathered in the lab. Commander Reed, Captain Walker, Mark Stevens, and Blue watched her intently. "After what happened at Pluto, crazy might be exactly what we need," Walker said quietly. Anna pointed to her equations. "We've been thinking about this all wrong. Everyone, including us, has been trying to destroy the Void Collective. But look at what happened during the test." She pulled up the data from the failed experiment. "They didn't just reflect our energy," she continued. "They changed it. And that's when it hit me. They're not destroying star systems, they're converting them. Transforming matter into their kind of energy." Blue's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "But that means they're not invaders," Anna finished. "They're colonists. They're changing our universe to match their own." Mark leaned forward, studying the data. "So when our quantum resonator hit them, they instinctively tried to convert it, just like they convert everything else." Anna's fingers flew over her keyboard, bringing up a new simulation. "But what if instead of fighting that conversion, we work with it?" Commander Reed crossed his arms. "Work with it how?" "By turning their own process against them. Instead of trying to unravel their energy pattern, we create a quantum field that tricks them into converting themselves into matter." She looked around at their stunned faces. "We don't need to destroy them. We need to give them physical form." "Is that even possible?" Blue asked, his translator struggling to convey his mix of shock and hope. Anna nodded eagerly. "The math works. When they tried to convert our quantum beam at Pluto, they actually started the process themselves. We just didn't recognize it because we were too busy evacuating." She brought up another display, showing the moment of the resonator's failure. "See these energy patterns? They were trying to convert our beam into their kind of energy, but the reverse quantum pattern created a feedback loop. For just a fraction of a second, part of the void entity started to become matter before it broke free. So we failed our way into finding the answer," Mark said with a slight smile. "Classic human luck," Walker added, shaking his head. Commander Reed stepped closer to the displays. "What do you need to make this work?" Anna took a deep breath. "We need to build a network of quantum converters, smaller than the resonator, but we'll need hundreds of them. And," she hesitated, "we need to get much closer to the void entities than last time." "How close?" Reed asked. "Point-blank range." She pulled up a map of the solar system. "We need to surround them with the converters, create a web of quantum fields that will trigger their conversion instinct, but trap them in the process of transformation." The room fell silent as they considered the implications. Getting that close to a void entity was practically suicide. The council races would call it madness. "How long to build the converters?" Reed finally asked. 2 days for the first batch. Maybe a week for all of them." Anna looked at Blue. "We'll need help from our alien friends again." Blue straightened up. "My people called humans primitive for building things by hand instead of using molecular assemblers. But sometimes, hands know things machines don't." Walker checked his tablet and frowned. "The Void Collective will reach Jupiter in 10 days. Then we have 9 days to get ready," Reed declared. He looked around the room. "I won't order anyone to participate in this mission. The risk." "We're all in," Mark interrupted, and the others nodded in agreement. Anna turned back to her equations, her heart pounding with equal parts fear and hope. Humanity had always been good at turning disadvantages into strengths. Now they just had to hope that being primitive enough to think the unthinkable would save not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Jupiter's massive red storm swirled beneath them as the fleet of small ships moved into position. Each vessel carried one of Dr. Mitchell's quantum converters, carefully hidden behind stealth technology borrowed from Blue's people. "All ships report ready," Mark Stevens announced from his station on the command ship. The AI specialist had written the targeting programs himself, working 3 days straight without sleep. Commander Reed stood at the bridge's main viewport, watching the massive form of the void entity approach. It looked like a storm cloud made of darkness, bigger than Earth's moon. "Dr. Mitchell, status of the quantum web." Network is synchronized, Anna replied from her station, surrounded by holographic displays. All converters are linked and responding. But sir, she hesitated, we'll only get one shot at this. If it fails, it won't fail, Reed said firmly. Because unlike everyone else in the galaxy, we're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to understand them. Blue's instruments chimed a warning. Entity will reach optimal position in 3 minutes. All ships confirm final coordinates. The plan was dangerous but simple. They had arranged their ships in a sphere around the void entity's predicted path, each one carrying a converter that would create a small part of the quantum web. If Anna's theory was right, when the entity tried to convert their energy, the web would trap it in mid-transformation. If she was wrong, they would lose Jupiter, and Earth would be next. 2 minutes, Blue announced. The aliens' usual musical tones were tense. All ships, go dark, Reed ordered. Power down everything except the converters. Don't even think about running if this goes wrong. If we move, we break the web. Anna's fingers flew over her controls, making final adjustments. Converting power to quantum field. Now. The lights dimmed across all ships as energy was diverted to the converters. Through the viewport, they could see the void entity approaching, its dark mass distorting the space around it. 1 minute, Blue whispered. Mark's screen showed the targeting data. Entity is following the predicted course. Web integrity at 100%. 30 seconds, Blue counted down. 20. 10. All ships. Reed's voice was steady. Activate converters on my mark. The void entity moved closer, unaware of the trap. They could see stellar matter streaming off it, the remains of the last star system it had consumed. Now, hundreds of quantum converters activated simultaneously. Beams of energy shot out from each ship, meeting in the space around the entity. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the dark mass stopped. Energy patterns shifting. Anna called out excitedly. It's trying to convert our quantum web. The viewport automatically darkened as brilliant light erupted from the entity. Its darkness began to swirl with colors they had never seen before. Web holding steady, Mark reported. Conversion process at 20%, 40%. The entity's form began to change, its energy condensing into something more solid. The process released waves of power that shook their ships violently. Hull stress reaching critical levels, Blue warned. We cannot maintain position much longer. Hold steady, Reed ordered. We're almost there. Anna's screens were filled with data. 80% conversion. 90. It's working. Where the dark mass had been, something new took shape. It looked like a crystal made of frozen lightning, roughly the size of a small mountain. Conversion complete. Anna breathed. We did it. We actually did it. As they watched, the crystal began to pulse with internal light. Patterns of energy moved across its surface like thoughts made visible. I'm picking up a signal, Mark announced suddenly. It's trying to communicate. Blue's instruments confirmed it. The patterns, they're similar to how my people's ancestors communicated before they developed physical speech. Reed looked at the transformed entity, then at his crew, humans and aliens working together, doing what the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had thought impossible. Open a channel, he ordered. Let's say hello to our new neighbor. As they established first contact with the converted being, Anna smiled tiredly. They had done more than just save their solar system. They had proven that sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy was to understand them first. The Galactic Council chamber looked very different from the last time Captain Walker had stood there, where fear and despair had once filled the room. Now excitement and wonder buzzed through the air. Representatives from hundreds of civilizations gathered to hear humanity's report. The crystalline being that had once been part of the Void Collective floated beside the human delegation. It communicated through patterns of light that pulsed across its surface, which the Council's universal translators now understood. We did not mean to destroy, it explained, its thoughts converted into words. We sought only to transform, to make this universe compatible with our existence. We did not understand that this realm's life had its own beauty. The council leader's crystal structure flickered with amazement. And now you can exist in our universe without converting it. Thanks to the human solution, yes. The converted being glowed softly. They gave us form without destroying our essence. They showed us a third path we had not imagined. Dr. Mitchell stepped forward, looking much more rested than she had during the crisis. The quantum conversion process is stable, she reported. We've successfully transformed 17 more void entities. Each one carries the memories and knowledge of their original form, but can now interact with our universe without damaging it. Commander Reed, standing at attention beside her, added, "The remaining Void Collective has agreed to halt their advance. They're willing to undergo voluntary conversion so our universes can coexist." Blue, now officially recognized as an ambassador between his people and Earth, clicked his mandibles happily. "My civilization's scientists have analyzed the conversion technology. It's both primitive and brilliant, like using a mirror to redirect light instead of trying to destroy it." The council leader turned its attention to the human delegation. "Your species surprised us, Captain Walker. When you refused to retreat, we thought you were being foolishly primitive." Walker smiled. "Sometimes being primitive means finding simple solutions to complex problems. We didn't try to outthink or overpower the Void Collective. We just tried to understand them. And in doing so," the converted being added, "you gave both our kinds hope. In our original form, we thought our way was the only way. You showed us that change does not have to mean destruction." Mark Stevens, who had been quietly working on his tablet, looked up. "The quantum conversion network is ready for full deployment. With the Council's help, we can set up conversion sites in every sector of the galaxy. No more worlds need to be lost." Anna stepped forward again. "We're also discovering that the converted beings have knowledge that could benefit all of us. They see quantum patterns we never imagined. Together, we might advance science in ways neither of our kinds could do alone." The council leader's crystalline form shimmered with what humans had learned to recognize as joy. "Then let it be recorded in the eternal archives. Humanity has not only saved our galaxy, but opened a door to a new age of cooperation between all forms of life." Walker looked around the chamber, remembering how different it had felt during that first desperate meeting. "We never lost hope," he said simply, "because humans have always been good at doing the impossible. When all the logical solutions fail, we try the illogical ones." The converted being pulsed with agreement. "Your species calls itself primitive, yet you understand something many advanced races forget. Sometimes the simplest answer is to make a friend instead of defeating an enemy." As the council chamber erupted in celebration, Walker watched representatives from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy eagerly approaching the human delegation with questions and proposals. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through superior technology or power, but through their unwillingness to give up hope and their ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. "Not bad for a primitive species," Reed said quietly, standing beside him. Walker nodded, watching Earth's flag being raised to a position of honor in the chamber. Sometimes being primitive just means remembering that the simplest solutions are often the best ones. And in the space above them, more void entities arrived peacefully, ready to be transformed, ready to join a universe where differences could coexist and hope would never be lost again.